Okay, on the bench for repair today is an ASUS Zenbook UX533. This is the 15-inch model, and it has suffered some type of accident and is in need of a new screen and hinge assembly. So this repair is not going to need a whole lot of tools. The first thing you'll probably want is some type of rubber or a towel to put your machine on, just so you don't scratch it as we flip it over and slide it around. You'll want a metal tray of some sort. It doesn't have to be metal, but some type of screw containment device. Then we'll need a Phillips head screwdriver, just a small one, and a Torx T5. That's going to be for the bottom case. And you also may find it helpful to have a suction cup just for getting the bottom case off. Without further ado, we're going to flip the laptop over and start disassembling the old screen. So once you've got it flipped over, you'll notice that there are 10 Torx T5 screws we're going to take out. And it's important to note that the 4 along the top are longer than the rest of them. So when we go to put them back in, just remember that the 4 along the top, that is the hinge side, are longer than the rest of them. You don't have to keep those separate, but you just want to be conscious of that. So I'm going to start taking these out. And you do want to be careful, as some of these are at an angle, meaning that their threaded base is at an angle into the chassis, and so you want to be sure to tilt your screwdriver just a little bit so that screw will come out as smoothly as possible, because these are just small inserts, small threaded inserts put into plastic, and so you obviously don't want to force them too much. There again, this was, you can see the comparison, short versus long screw. So again, here's one of these corner screws that's at an angle. You can see if my screwdriver were perfectly perpendicular, we'd be like this, but instead we're tilted down like this. And we want to be sure to match that angle to avoid stripping the screw. So now we are done with our case screws for now. We'll set them aside. And this whole bottom assembly will come off. Got to remove this tape that the owner used to keep the two pieces from completely falling apart. But yours may come off easily. What I recommend, and that's what I'll use for this one, is just a suction cup. Place it pretty much anywhere on there. And might take a few tugs. But there you go. You can see it started to come off. We'll lose the suction cup now and just gently work our way around. And that takes our bottom case off. So now that we've got that bottom case off, it is a good time to inspect your internals or dust the machine if you'd like to. We're going to go ahead and disconnect the battery here. So you'll notice a plastic piece and a metal piece. This metal piece slides to the right, and then the white plastic connector just comes up towards the camera. That disconnected our battery. Now we're going to investigate the top half of the laptop. We got two cables to disconnect here. One's the webcam. I would assume that's this one because it's smaller, and one is the video signal. So that's where our Phillips screwdriver comes in. We got 3 Phillips screws on each hinge. Go ahead and pop those off. And these are, as far as I know, all the same length. So we can just put them all in a collection together. There's 3. I am going to add them to our parts tray with the case screws just to keep all of our hardware together. And I'm taking these screws out before loosening the cables just so we have that little bit of extra length on the cables to get them disconnected without kinking them up. Alright, now we've got those 6 screws, and you can see our hinge assembly is fully free. We're going to go ahead with those cables. This one just comes straight up. And the webcam, I'm assuming because it's smaller. So the smaller cable here is going to go back towards the back of the laptop if you have the battery in the front. And we should be fully disconnected. I'm going to raise this off. Got to do some cable unrouting. There's a little bit of tape there and a cable management pin there, I guess you'd call it. And now we are able to, one more. Oh, it's just the hinge. Hinge has gotten hung up underneath it. And we are able to remove the bottom half of the laptop from the display assembly. So now we can get a little bit closer look at our damage. Obviously there's tape here sort of keeping the whole thing from falling apart. But this hinge assembly here is completely separated from the machine. And yeah, you could maybe put that on, but I believe it's broken in there somewhere. And also the screen assembly, like we showed previously, is damaged as well. So I'm gonna grab our new part. So here's our new part. It's available from asusparts.eu. It's obviously got protectant film over both sides, so that's what's causing that to look strange. On the back, we've got the same blue color as the original, and we have the two cables that we just disconnected. Luckily, the webcam is built in. That was my main concern when ordering this, is I saw that they sold the webcam separately, and I did not want to have to figure out how to delicately remove the screen from the actual cover because of how thin this bezel is. I didn't want any risk of cracking it, so I'm glad they both came together. It's an OEM part as far as I can tell, and we're going to go ahead and start installing it. So we'll get the old one out of the way. Bring our laptop base back over. And I think since it's got the protectant film on it, the best way to do this is probably just the way we took the other one off. So we've actually got the laptop situated the same way it was when we disassembled it. Because of the protectant film, I feel okay with that. I've just put the new screen assembly on. It's just resting on the case there. So we can go ahead and begin to bend these hinges back over. So that's going to be our first connection point. As well as we can start investigating this cable. As you can see, that's a perfect match. And here is the second cable, as well as some new adhesive. So that is identical to the factory one. I think the first thing we're going to do is situate these cables. Do it in reverse order. So that one, we lined it up, went right on. Route through the cable hider there. And then the smaller one, I take a look at it, find out which way it wants to go on. So it's going to want to go on from the back of the laptop sliding forward, but I'm just going to take it off camera briefly just because I can't see well enough to do that. Okay, so I got both cables reattached. This one, like I said, is going to come in from the back and go and plug in that way, and this one's going to plug in from the top. Next thing we want to do is attach our Phillips head screws to make sure that our new display is not going to be sliding around, and we also want to make sure that we're utilizing all of the cable hiders that we've got to keep these things from getting bound up. So we're going to line this one up, and we'll just start over here on the left. And for these Phillips head screws, there are small indicators here on the bottom of the case. They have small arrows on them to indicate which holes the screws need to go into, or little triangles. Alright, so that took a little bit of wrestling, but I did end up getting the screws back on the hinge. And now the last thing we're going to try is to reconnect the battery. I'm actually going to grab a plastic spudger like you'd use to replace a phone screen to slide this metal piece back. We don't want to use our screwdriver just because there's the chance of bridging two of these contacts, and since this is the battery, we'd probably get some voltage in places we didn't want it right now in the computer. I think that is good. So the next thing we're going to do is actually flip the laptop over. We're not going to put the bottom case on just yet, but we're going to flip it over and hit our power button and see where we stand in terms of the repair. Alright, our screen is working. We did do a hard power off on the machine last time, so I think that's why it's taking a little bit to boot up. This is actually a pretty decent machine. It's got an 8th gen i7. I don't know which model specifically, but it's got a GTX 1050 if I'm not mistaken, solid state drive. I think either 8 or 16 gigs of RAM. Not sure, but our screen is fully repaired, so that's awesome. I'll shut the laptop back down, flip it over, and reinstall our bottom case. So as you would expect, installation is the reverse of removal. I did go ahead and dust this off a little bit, just had a little bit of accumulation just from normal use. But we're now going to go ahead and take our case and plop it back on and just give it some gentle pushes to get it locked back in. This is one of those things, obviously this is a pretty delicate operation here. So if something doesn't feel right, don't force it, just take another look. So right now I'm noticing that the cable here for the webcam is getting hung up on the hinge. So we're going to take another look at that. Oh, I see, it's just not fully in its little cable hider. So we'll put that back. And now we will try again. So that's interesting and is a learning experience for sure. There are more holes in the hinges than there are screws in the hinges because the last hole actually serves as a mounting point for the case, the bottom case. So that explains why those screws are longer. That's just one more attachment point here for the hinge. I found that out because I had one of these long screws and I was trying to put it in to put the bottom case on, and I noticed that one, I couldn't see threads, and two, it wasn't going in. So I popped the case off, as you can see, and this screw here, this silver one, is actually in the wrong place. It needs to hop over here so our long screw can go in here and fasten this case back down. So I'm going to do that real quick. Again, just trial and error, learning process, but we'll get there shortly. So unfortunately, as it seems to tend to go with hardware repair, we messed up our screws in their locations. So that second silver screw that I had in the wrong hole here actually came out of this battery securement area. I don't know how it got out. I don't remember loosening it, but that's where it belongs. And as a result, we have misplaced one of these screws that holds the hinges in. Luckily, they're available to order. The size, actually, that's one of the great things about this motherboard, and I'm sure other ones, but it's actually got the screw size next to each hole by that triangle indicator, so we know exactly what size we need to order. I'm going to go ahead with putting the case back on only because I will have the ability to, when this new screw comes in, get this machine back and repair it. So it's not like I'm shipping it off in unfinished condition. I just will have the opportunity to repair it, and I am going to order that screw to get it fixed and just be cautious until that time. But like I said, and the screw, as y'all know how this goes, it may turn up as I'm cleaning up after putting the video together. But like I said, till then, we're going to go ahead and put that case back on. I also noticed while I was looking, just to clear up the reason why those screws are longer, they go in through the hinge, and they also go in here and here. So they're just further securement points for the whole machine, just holding it together. So we're going to grab the bottom case and get back to putting those screws in. Actually, I've not cut the video at all. I finished with that statement I just made and looked down to get the bottom case and found that missing screw. So crisis averted. I'll go ahead and put that in. And now we can carry on with the repair. Okay, and that is that. So we still have all of the protective film on the laptop, but the next thing I think I'm going to do before taking that off is just get a little bit of cleaner, just all-purpose cleaner, and get rid of this tape residue. Probably won't film that, but I'll be back after I get it cleaned up just so it looks nice to give it back. Alright, so I actually was able to test out the camera, and it all works, and there are no dead pixels on the screen, so we're going to call this a perfect repair, but there's only one thing left to do, and that is to remove the stickies. There's the one on the back cover. Then there you can maybe see that the webcam is looking for us, but we're more interested in the So there we go. Like I said, this is a OEM part. Looks perfect. I don't see any dead pixels. I got it from ASUS Parts online. It was about $300 with shipping, so that's not bad. About $280 without shipping. It again is ASUS Zenbook 15-inch UX533. We'll call this a good repair. So hopefully this will help somebody out there that's either looking to repair this exact model or one like it. I know some of them don't have this nano edge bezel, and it's a little bit different, but hopefully this will help somebody out there. I understand it's definitely sort of a niche video, but if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.